A lot of people taught me about love. I mean, I had examples, I think, in my household. I can't recall like full conversations necessarily about, this is what love looks like, this isn't. Also, I think learning a lot from entertainment, movies, rom-coms, and television shows and that sort of thing really laid examples, not necessarily always the best examples, but just a lot of examples of what love looks like, what love doesn't look like.
So it's Anitra again. I'm back with Brandy from Madame Noir, and we're going to continue our talk about healthy relationships. Once again, I put her in the hot seat, and one of the questions that she answered I thought really was very insightful, and it was, who taught you about love? And you mentioned that a lot of people did.
Yeah.
But also entertainment, TV, like movies.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really important. I feel like I didn't get that talk, like what you should look for in a relationship. I got a lot of don't do this, don't accept cheating, don't accept abuse. That's what I got.
Yeah.
And no one really taught me like what to actually look for. So can you kind of talk about like the need for that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree totally. Like it was always this is what you don't tolerate. But like, okay, but when it's something good, what does that look like? So, yeah, I think that's super important because so many people don't realize that they are in an abusive, type of situation. And a lot of us didn't even get the proper example, let alone verbalizing it. It's just like what you saw wasn't good. And then you find yourself older and you're in a similar situation. You're like, this is normal because this is what I experienced. So it's very important, for people to just tell you what love looks like. And I think it also just gives you hope like you can have it, instead of, when you say just don't accept abuse, don't accept this, it sets you up to expect that's what's going to come.
Right, that's what's coming.
Versus like, there's a man out there who's going to treat you like this.
Teach you what you deserve.
Exactly.
Someone's going to come there and respect you because that's what you deserve. You deserve respect.
Right, exactly. So I think, the way we just give those messages to, our kids and stuff like that as they start dating is extremely important. Just set the expectation that good things are out there and this is what it's going to look like, and it's possible for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to teach our kids how to navigate certain things when they do happen.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was taught what not to accept, and when it actually happened to me, I was not equipped to deal with it. And so it was like, okay, this happened. I was scared, but I didn't know, like, now what?
Exactly.
And so I think that's also important to do.
Yeah.
And so with such a platform as Madame Noir and how great it is, in my unbiased opinion, how can people who have such a platform as yours spread healthy messages about relationships?
I think it's very important to allow people to tell their stories. Like what we try to do for Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October is really tell survivor stories, that's what we call them, of women and men who've survived domestic abuse. And I think that's really important just because it helps to relieve some of the stigma. Like when you're in an abusive situation, there's fear from your partner, alone leaving that situation, but also just a fear that you're going to be judged, and so much of the time, like, we place more blame on the victim, than the abuser. How could you let that happen? How could you stay in that situation? And then if you aren't even recognizing your situation as abusive, you can read someone else's story and realize, oh, that's what's happening to me. That's wrong. So that for us, we definitely try to do, and I think a lot of other platforms do that as well. And I think telling stories, when they happen, like a Ray Rice situation or Evelyn Lozada and that sort of thing. Put the stories out there. You don't need to protect the abuser, and that kind of thing. Now, you have to be careful with victims and not violating their rights for sure. But I think so many men are able to hide, and men and women who are abusers are able to hide, behind that, and it becomes the victim's job to kind of fix up the story, and we need to, I think, put more pressure on the abuser, for that, and really, speak about their issues and that they have. And I think something to be wary of is just, the conversations of just, judgment and that, like, would you take an abusive partner back? Those aren't helpful conversations to have. And every situation is unique. I don't believe once an abuser, always an abuser. Like I've seen, people I've known who've had that past and have changed. So I think you really just have to come from a place of education and informing people, and not using those situations, just for traffic or things like that, but really trying to make a difference for people, just helping them see abuse in a tangible way. Yeah.
Those are all great points. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
And I just want to add, that also an important thing is to let people know that there are resources out there.
Yes,
unfortunately, the hotline is not. It's available. It's free. It's anonymous and whatnot. But a lot of people, especially in the Black community or minority communities, don't know that it's available, and
Yeah.
even if it is, aren't willing to reach out and talk about
Absolutely,
it
yeah.
because of that stigma, because of not being taught that you don't deserve it, or that it's not normal.
Yeah.
But also just the mentality that what happens in the home stays in the home.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of us get that
Oh my God.
message.
We just literally wrote something about, yeah, literally. Just
Yeah,
something.
so it's
Yeah.
like what happens here stays here, and so I'm not going to go out and like call a hotline or strangers.
Exactly.
But sometimes you just need that perspective to kind of, give you an unbiased view and remind you that you don't deserve it. It's not normal.
Absolutely.
And just provide those resources to get out.
Definitely.
So I think it's definitely a fun conversation for us to have.
For sure.
Well, thanks. Thanks
Yes,
for those points.
of course.
See you guys next time.